These days, you cannot browse the web without coming across something related to ChatGPT. So I thought I would take this opportunity to share my own perspective with you. Here is an example of just one article I ran into by chance before making this video. There are 1,000 more articles and videos like this circulating around the web. As someone in academia, the funniest thing I've seen so far is how academics are freaking out about the rise of ChatGPT. I find myself endlessly amused when I see someone in academia losing their mind over ChatGPT. And I cheerfully say to myself, ChatGPT is the best thing that ever happened to our education system. This view does not make me exactly popular among my colleagues, of course. But fortunately, there is something called freedom of thought, even though some people think such a freedom should exist only insofar as others agree with us. Just to be clear, my cheerfulness is not because I endorse using language models to write papers. That would be a silly thing to endorse. But because I think the very existence of language models has the potential to finally push our education system forward. Allow me to explain. If you are not an academic or if you have just begun your studies, the information I'm about to share may be new to you. For a very long time, the academy has structured itself around a very specific style of writing, the boring, dry, and impersonal academic article. Sometimes monographs are published, but they are, in reality, nothing more than very long articles. But why has such a style dominated the academic world? The answer has to do with standardization. With the professionalization of the field came the need to be able to evaluate the work and qualifications of scholars quickly and efficiently against the common set of recognized standards. The philosophical paper in essay form was immediately recognized as well adopted for this purpose. Its brevity and concise narrow focus allow the writer to present his or her position in an economical manner while enabling the reader to evaluate that position and the philosophical acumen of the author in fairly short order. The critical essay must follow a generally recognized set of formal rules which thus serve as a common standard for evaluation. This style of writing was originally far more prevalent in fields like physics. Philosophers adopted this style in order to have a standardized style suited for making rapid assessments, and also to make themselves feel like they were doing real science. It's a classic example of killing two birds with one stone. As effective as this style of writing may be for forming quick judgments in higher education, it has its limits. If I wanted to list the dangers and shortcomings of such a standardization, I would have to make 100 more videos. Instead, in this video, I will focus only on one specific problem with the way academic papers are commonly written. It's doomed elitism. Not only every academician writes for only a couple of other people who specialize in the same sub-field, but also the language of the academic paper is designed to be boringly inaccessible to a wider audience. Have you ever wondered why you, my audience, listen to YouTube videos instead of reading 40 academic articles about the topic you are interested in? Yes, one simple answer is that we are all lazy and do not want to spend hours and hours focusing on a specific problem. So we would all rather watch a 5-minute video about what interests us. But the length is not really the issue. Listening to a 3-hour-long podcast is not a problem for most of us. So laziness cannot be the whole answer. The fact of the matter is that no one in their right mind would want to suffer reading something as boring as a doormat. It is hard to finish reading something as dry and cold as a stone for a couple of hours straight without wanting to shoot oneself. As a YouTuber, I am here to survive reading those boring texts and offer them to you in comprehensible everyday language. The job of YouTubers in general is to read the dry and mechanistic papers written by academics and translate them into more accessible language for the general public. Don't get me wrong, I perfectly understand why the academic style of writing came into being, and I do think it has its merits. In fact, I strongly believe that every student should be taught how to read and write such texts. Nevertheless, I also strongly believe that each student should eventually go beyond this style after mastering it. My main concern is the extreme hegemony of this writing style in today's academic world, which is often robotic and soulless. But if I, as a philosopher, write anything other than a boring and impersonal article on a niche topic that interests only two other specialists, it is unlikely to get published in any academic journal. Even worse, I will not be taken seriously as a philosopher by any of my colleagues. I will name the three most obvious characteristics of academic articles or papers. They are impersonal and soulless. They are much drier and more incomprehensible than the everyday language used by ordinary people. And they are put together mechanically. Well, guess what else is good at producing something that has these characteristics? Machines. In academy, we have been training students to sound ever more robotically, and all of a sudden, we are surprised that machines are doing a better job at being machines than humans. In fact, we have become so skilled at writing like machines that texts written by language models sound much more human than the texts we humans write. I mean, this is why I find the whole situation so amusing. ChatGPT is capable of writing a much more coherent and comprehensible text than an average academician. Ironically, texts composed by machines sound less robotic than those written by humans. Make ChatGPT sound more robotic, and it will sound more academese. We are where we are because we have been trained to write books and articles that sound as depersonalized as possible. Now, where do we go from here? These are my predictions. I call the first prediction embracing language models. There will be a group of people that will embrace using language models. There might even arise journals and online platforms that publish stuff written by AI. In such a case, the emphasis will be, among other things, on developing and perfecting the art of prompting. I call the next prediction doubling down. As funny as it may sound, there will be a group of academics that will try to surpass AI by writing even more mechanistically than they already do. Some journals will start to accept only the highest level of dryness. My hope is that this kind of barren desert would perish from its own lack of life. My other prediction is that there will be people who will embrace the human language. The emphasis is on the word human. They will try to sound as human as possible. A new emphasis on soulful writing will emerge. This can take many shapes and forms, ranging from mystical writings to new literary styles. It needs to be added that there is one final prediction. There will be other unforeseen groups. But since the unforeseen is by definition unpredictable, I will not predict anything more than saying that there will be an unpredictable development. It's not the case that only one of these predictions will happen. No, all of them will happen. These groups will compete with each other. As for me, my hope is on the third group. Even though this group has the potential to produce many poisonous esoteric writings, it also has the potential to embrace the human element. To name just a few, writings of Goethe, Schiller, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, and Rilke fall under this category. But the styles of these authors have to be overcome and surpassed. It would not be enough to write and sound like Nietzsche. Even prior to the development of language models capable of imitating styles, it was deemed ridiculous to imitate other authors. What we should take from these authors are not their styles, which machines are better at imitating anyway, but their authenticity. They each found a unique human element within themselves and expressed it in their own unique way. Lastly, I need to emphasize that this video was not meant as a criticism of the academic paper per se. Academy makes up the rules of its own game, and if someone wants to be part of it, they should respect those rules. It would be ridiculous to want to play chess, for instance, but refuse to follow the rules of the game. Same with academia. It's clear what the rules of the game are, and I myself will respect the rules of the game so long as I be a player in this game. Nevertheless, that does not stop me from being conscious of these rules from a higher perspective. Maybe it is time to review the rules of the game. The same way that rules of chess have developed and transformed throughout history, academia has to pause the game and take a look at itself to see where it stands.